Hey, it's Chupacabra Offroad. You found the only 2025 RZR release video worth watching. Let's get into it. Alright, it's that time of year, so if you're a hardcore devoted off-roader, side-by-side enthusiast like me, you always look forward to these warm summer months to get some new exciting model year information releases. Either people make up their own rumors or they hear rumors about where it's going, and if you guys have been in the space for a while, you know it's been exciting. We've seen a big ramp up in progression from the first RZR in 2008 or even before that Rhino, depending on when it started for you, where we've come and basically where we're headed. More power, better suspension, fully enclosed AC, who knows where we're going to be. So the rumors swirl, and then all of a sudden we get these releases like last night Polaris, and then we've got Can-Am coming in a few weeks right behind that. So always fun, always exciting to see what the new information is, so we get stoked for desert season. So of course, Polaris and Can-Am are the two biggest companies that are most positioned to deliver this exciting new technology. And as a former Polaris employee who worked in sales, I always enjoyed looking at the strategy. It's interesting to see how their two product lines match up and how they're going to win your money this season if you're looking to make a new purchase, whether you're at the top end of the price spectrum with the Pro R all the way down to the basic model XP1000. There's a lot of different models now. The sport's really evolved, and for a lot of people, based on where you ride, based on what you want to do, you probably already owned a side-by-side, or you have a friend that owns one, and you have an idea where you want to land on either a color or a trim package of one of these vehicles or a particular brand that you might have had an experience with. So it's very interesting to see what they do. Speaking of that, in summer of 2025, the COVID honeymoon is officially over. So, high prices and not having enough supply to keep up with demand has completely changed. Now we've got a lot of enticing deals on 2024 models. So I'm excited to see what Polaris has done with their pricing strategy and what they're offering for value. And there's some interesting changes. So let's start it off with the XP1000. So I mentioned a lot of good deals out there on 2024. So let's go through each of these product lines so you can have a better idea of if one of these new 2025 models is what you want to go with, or should you look for a great deal on a 2024, because there's a lot of supply and there's a lot of different models. And let's start off by talking about the XP1000. And the biggest change for it really was a reduction in price. So when you compare apples to apples on their website, the basic trim levels, the prices come down $1,000. So that's nice to see. They released this right before the major release last night, so it kind of gave me some ideas of what they were going to do with their pricing strategy for the other levels we'll talk about here in a second. But it's good to see that Polaris understands that it's a more difficult climate. Less people are purchasing side-by-sides. Of course, Polaris, Can-Am, all these companies want to move metal, get some cars sold to all of you, and they've got to do it any way they've got to do it, whether it's getting you some more aggressive interest rates, rebates, and then flat out lower MSRP. So this is something that we haven't seen in a while. I don't know if I've even seen it ever from Polaris, for instance, but it's good to see that they have some models that are a lower price point than before. So XP1000 starting off basically with bold new graphics, but there is a price reduction amongst all the different trim levels they offer. All right, next step up is the Pro XP. Now, this is a model that here in the Southwest, not many people are excited about, but you do go from a basic XP1000 up to 181 horsepower. It's only 64 inches wide. I'm sure this model sells in bigger numbers outside of the Southwest. I wasn't sure if they were going to get rid of it, but they ended up reducing the price on it as well. So when you compare over the 2024 models, the price has been reduced, MSRP of $600. And the first thing you're going to notice about it, as well as the other models, the Pro S and the Pro R, is a new updated styling. So, I remember when these models all first launched, myself included, a lot of us weren't the biggest fan of the look. If you owned a Turbo S like me, we all thought that the Turbo S was the best looking and perhaps the best RZR ever made. And it's really cool to see they brought back a lot of those styling cues from the Turbo S. So hats off to Polaris, who brought back the Fangs. Almost everybody agreed that they loved the styling and look of it. And not only did they just kind of throw a new front fascia on it, but I like the look of the fenders. It looks like it's got a new look to it. They've also integrated a couple of features that all these models get, which they are calling the fresh air intake scoops. They all have a new dash cluster. So the styling is more than just the front grille. They've integrated a little bit of performance, and I think the cars look great. I think the roll cages are all essentially the same, but they have updated it. And I know a lot of you guys that own the older 22, 23, and 24 are probably going to want to update the styling, but I think you're going to have to do more than just buy the front fascia. You're going to have to be buying some fenders as well as all the components, even a hood, and that stuff gets to be pretty pricey when you're talking about the painted plastics on those items. So that's one thing to think about. If you just really like how it looks, hey, these are our toys. We have to look at them in the garage all the time. No one wants to own something that they don't think is very attractive. And I think most of you guys would agree. Comment below. The 2025s look a lot cooler than the previous models. So beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but I do think the fresh air intakes is a nice feature benefit now. They're claiming that you're gonna get some additional air in through the cab. The Pro XP, the Pro S, and the Pro R all have this feature, which a lot of you guys know, a long day, anything above 80 degrees, it gets warm. So having more airflow is important. I remember guys back in the Razor 1000 days making little brackets to hold their doors open. For a lot of you guys who are doing slower trail rides, heat's almost always an issue when you're off-roading basically wherever you live. So more air is always appreciated. And one of the engineers said that it also helps with in-cab dust. So I know a lot of you guys always ask me, do I like a windshield, do I not? Some people claim that the windshield increases the amount of dust. They try to combat that with the rear windshield. A lot of you guys are always fighting in-cab dust, and that could be another feature that it could help with. So I like that. Another upgrade too, you'll notice the look of the door. So I think the doors look a lot better. It's a nice flat surface, similar to a look of an aftermarket door. Me as a guy who always wants to promote my brand, it's just easier to throw a graphic or makes it look better. And it reduces the need to want to upgrade on aftermarket doors. I've owned several aftermarket doors. Unfortunately, some of those do sag over time, they rattle more. The Polaris doors, I do think, the latches work well. I tend to notice less issues. It looks like it's a little bit more robust. There's a nice armrest, which I'm always driving with my arm outside of the door, so I'll probably use the armrest. Probably a little bit heavier, remains to be seen, but that's a nice feature benefit. If you remember back in the old Razor days, they didn't even have doors, so everybody was upgrading, and then that kind of converted to door inserts on the Razor 1000, and there was a mid-price point door that used to do well if you didn't want to spend all the money. Now it kind of seems with the Pro R, you basically are going to leave your stock doors or you're going to upgrade to the highest end offering, and I think a lot of people are not going to want or need to spend the money because these doors look like a nice upgrade over the previous version. So that's some added value that me as a customer I think is cool and wanted to point out there on all the models. All right, moving on up to the next model that a lot of you Southwest people would be interested in is the old Turbo R is now called a Pro S. Looks similar to the Turbo S, and this was the car that replaced the Turbo S. This car didn't necessarily sell as well, I don't think, as a lot of people might have assumed. It's nice to see for model year 2025, they also reduced the price. The price has been reduced $800 over 2024. So again, you're seeing some additional feature benefit. We have some new styling cues, of course, new colorways, and the price didn't go up. All right, let's move on to the top dog, the Pro R. Now, last year for the Pro R, there were two models. It was the Premium and the Ultimate. This year, the two models are the Sport and the Ultimate. So the Premium model last year retailed for $37,999. The Sport model two-seater is $34,999. So pretty big price reduction. And the Ultimate last year was $40,999. But now the Ultimate this year is $42,999. So there is a $2,000 price increase, a bigger price disparity, and now a bigger question, hey, do I step up and get the top dog with the live valve suspension and the ride command, or do I stick with the base model? So you got a big decision there, a bigger price gap than it ever was. And when I used to work for sales in Polaris, there was all these different trim models, but it always seemed like with the top dog, everybody always opts for the top trim package. That's just how it is. So interesting strategy on Polaris's part. To get into the Ultimate this year, there's some extra bells and whistles that I think are pretty cool and might even convince me or you. So let me break those down and talk about what you're getting. So you'll notice the Fang lights. There's a cool little animated Fang light sequence when you start the car up and shut it down, which is pretty cool. You'll notice, of course, it's got the new front fascia, but that's painted along with the hood being painted. So that's a nice value add over just that basic, black fascia they've used on the base trim models. Here's a cool feature, heated and cooled seats. Now, if you guys have watched the channel for any length of time, I put heated seats in basically all my cars. I love it. They're a total game changer when you need it. And what Polaris did is they did a heated seat option on the base of the seat and a cooled seat on your lower back. Now, it's not an actual AC, but it is a little fan that is blowing air into your back, and there is a little zipper. You can open up that little section there behind your back and take out a filter and wash it. It is something that I would really like to try out. It's probably not going to be as good as air conditioning, of course, but you know, Polaris is a really pragmatic company, and I like the thoughtfulness of this, of it being something that, again, with a looks like an upgraded seat a little bit. This is another item that if you splurge and get the ultimate trim level, you're probably not going to want to upgrade the seats. And aftermarket seats are pretty pricey. Adding the seat heaters is pricey, and this is a feature that nobody else is offering now with the cooling feature. So I'm sure that it's going to be something that's nice. I'm really keen to try it out, particularly with the addition of the air coming through the front. So that's one thing that a lot of Pro R customers talked about, was just the in-cab heat, that they tried to reduce that. And you know, Polaris offering these features, I think, is very thoughtful and cool, and I appreciate it. So stuff that really is going to make a difference on the 12-hour days in Baja, or let's say a 90-degree day in San Paulo when you're rock climbing. You know, we want all the air we want these cars to be more refined, and that's kind of the name of the game. You've noticed if you made it this far in the video, I haven't talked anything about suspension, anything about horsepower. All those numbers, wheelbase, the suspension components are all the same. Like I've mentioned in previous videos, the Pro R, the Turbo R have phenomenal brake stock, and they didn't really change any of that stuff. They're just getting more refined, as you can tell. The dash has some cool LEDs on it. You know, the Rockford Fosgate stereo is upgraded, and I'm assuming it'll sound a little bit better than the previous versions. So we're at a point right now in the side-by-side industry where we've got a lot of features. I mean, the Pro R Ultimate Edition still has the, you know, oh no button for stiffness of compression. When you're hitting some bumps coming into full speed, you can adjust some of the features right there on the steering wheel like a high-end vehicle. So other than fully enclosed and air conditioning, which I think is coming in the next couple of years, I don't know what else we could really expect from these vehicles. I think, you know, if you do want more horsepower, you are one of these guys that expected a turbo model, maybe it will come. Good news is with the stock 4-cylinder motor, you got a ton of low-end torque. The aftermarket's already robust with either a turbo or just some stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 additional power upgrades if you want, really, if you're a sand dune guy. You've got all that type of stuff. So I'm not too surprised that there weren't a lot of changes. Again, Polaris, pragmatic company. I like the thoughtful changes. So just some nice refinement. Nothing big on the performance front, and every year there's always these rumors, like I mentioned, of a turbo or a DCT to compete with the Can-Am. And I will have to mention, you know, a lot of the hardcore off-roaders, you pre-runner guys, sandrail guys, always like to make fun of us side-by-side guys, but did you guys notice some race results coming from Baja? The Pro R has not only beat all the other side-by-sides by a pretty good margin over the last year, but also beat a lot of the Class 10 cars. A Class 10 car is an unlimited desert vehicle with a 4-cylinder motor. Those cars are 100K on up, and the Pro R is handing it to them with a rubber band transmission. So, you know, that's worth mentioning. I talk a lot about the handling of these vehicles. You know, the Pro R is something I'd like to see have a little bit better handling, but at the highest level, it's, you know, obviously these cars are a factory with a lot of upgrades, but it's not slowing the vehicle down, and the performance that Pro R has achieved in Baja racing is exceptional and is definitely worth mentioning. So, you know, will we see some additional power in the future? For sure. Will we see a Polaris leave the CVT belt? Maybe one day, but at the end of the day, the performance capability of the car is exceptional. And after owning multiple brands and driving them all back to back, the car is not hindering many of us from a driving perspective. So just had to call it out that the Pro R gets it done when push comes to shove in the harshest racing conditions in the most important races in the world in Baja. Oh, and did you guys notice there's a teal colorway? Just saying. But let's put a bow on this thing. Let's talk about the first question I posed at the beginning of this video. 2024, 2025. Well, we should hang tight for a couple weeks and see what Can-Am has to reveal. Everyone's waiting on a 4-seat Mavar. I'm curious what the pricing is going to be. A lot of you guys are waiting on that machine. But talking apples to apples, Polaris 25 versus 24, you're not giving up any performance if you take advantage of an amazing deal on a 2024 right now. I like a lot of those little features on the 2025. I could really see myself in that teal 2025 Pro R two-seater. I'd love to have a two-seat car that I can just really beat on and maybe do some small local racing, things like that. I do have a family. I do need a four-seater, so if I was able to switch to a two-seat and four-seat, I think I'd like to maybe go with like a beater four-seater for the rocks and family rides I can still take to the dunes, and then have my two-seater. But we'll save that for a whole different video of what I decide to go with this year. But hopefully this helps you guys sort out some of the pricing, some of the ideas, what you're getting for your money. Pro R is more refined. The Turbo R going to the Pro S, more refinement out of Polaris. Not a lot of changes. You're not giving up anything on the performance spectrum if you take advantage of an early deal, but lots to think, and it's a good time to buy this summer sand show. So if you're thinking about purchasing something new, definitely review which color, which trim you're looking for, which model, and go back to back with your local dealer and find the best deal that works out for you. So that's my 2 cents. Hope you guys like the content. If you do, please like and subscribe. Thanks. We got a whole lot more coming your way.